Greetings, and good afternoon, Juneteenth family. Welcome to another weekly edition of our Luncheon Run.
E is exhaling, having an opportunity to breathe, to rest, to refill yourself and rejuvenate yourself, because no one can pour from an empty cup.
As you evolve and become more of yourself, you begin to attract the people that are there for you.
Amen.
So everything you need is in this space.
You have to learn from your mistakes. Once you make a mistake, sit down, recoup, and then start over. And once you do that, you say, I got that.
See, Juneteenth means to me, I would definitely say empowerment and education.
When I experience it, it's like just coming together and, being a part of something bigger than myself, And
A new start, starting a new chapter, opportunity, new beginnings, all of that good
stuff. Greetings, and good afternoon, Juneteenth family. Today, we are joined by Janasha Bradford, and we will be talking about her business, Mahogany and Friends, and how she teaches financial literacy for children. Let's bring Janasha to the stage, aka Jay.
Hi, hey, how are you?
I'm well. I too am nicknamed Jay a lot of times, most times not by choice. I've never told anyone that it's that they could call me Jay, but a lot of times I end up being called Jay. And it's quite all right. I understand.
Yeah, I do Jay by choice because people say Janasha. They mess my name up. So I'm like, gotcha. I get tired of keep correcting people. So just call me Jay.
I love it. Something told me it was Janasha. I was like, that just sounds so much prettier. And I'm sure that's what her mama named her, not Janasha. Yes. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to say anything bad about anybody named Janasha out there. But Janasha flows off my tongue a little bit smoother. Welcome, Jay. Welcome to Lunch Learn. It's a pleasure to have you, and a really great topic to talk about. I hope that this is one of those that goes viral. I hope that they all go viral one day. But as far as financial literacy goes, our culture, our community, definitely it's something that we can't start too early, especially when you see the children embracing learning at such an earlier age these days in a quicker pace. Seeing that you can find 2-year-olds now that can sing their whole entire ABCs, and in the earlier years and in my generation, that really was not a thing. And if it was a thing, that was like a genius child. Now it's like more of an average child. Yeah. So I love that you're teaching financial literacy and that there are others like you out there making this a conversation and making it more than a conversation, a whole new practice.
Yeah.
So tell us what inspired you to start Mahogany and Friends. How did you come up with the concept of you? First of all, tell us what exactly Mahogany and Friends is. Then let us know what inspired you to start it, how you came up with it, and the whole idea of a fun concept and creativeness to teach the children.
Yeah, so Mahogany and Friends started off as a book series, and it quickly morphed. Quickly morphed into like a multimedia company centered around educating children on different financial topics. So at Mahogany and Friends, our number one priority is recreating how kids think about money and really bridging that gap in financial literacy that's available to kids in a storybook format. And we do that by making it accessible, inclusive, and fun. So I'm all about fun, and I definitely think that's the way to really inspire children to learn about finances. Our sweet spot, so our information really focuses on children between the ages of 6 to 11. I feel like that's really where your financial foundation is built, where you're starting to observe your parents and observe your community and how they interact with money. So I wanted to create a book to kind of push some healthy interactions with money.
I love that. And what exactly was your inspiration for starting Mahogany and Friends?
Well, that's That's a good question, but it's a loaded, long story. But I'm really a person where I feel like your experiences shape who you are, whether that be negatively or positively. Is all in how you look at what happened to you, and I just say focus on that silver lining. So at the age of 7, my father tragically passed away in a truck accident and left my mother with 2 kids and pregnant with her third. And she, got a large insurance policy payout. He was the patriarch of the family and was good in that way of making sure that we were going to be covered with insurance. And she got a large amount of money. And over the years, we lived a good life, but I really watched her mismanage it, whether that's over lending to family, getting bad financial advice from advisors, or being scared to make her money work for her and disclose exactly what amount of money she was having. And when I was going off to college in around 08, we lost everything. Like, we lost our family home. I had to pull out of college. We just went through a lot of financial hardships, and me being the oldest, I was really there for my mother and witnessed her going through all of that. And it just showed me the importance of wanting to be empowered. Like, hey, this doesn't have to happen. How can I make sure that I'm not doing this, and setting up, my younger siblings. It was really more so like just for my family type of thing, why I wanted to feel empowered. And when I was studying for my Series 7, fast forward to become a financial advisor, I just was questioning, like, why is this information feeling so foreign? Like, I was learning a foreign language. Like, it was harder for me to study for my Series 7, more so than maybe some of my white counterparts who were introduced to that information early on. And it sent me down a rabbit hole of the World Wide Web, and I just found out so much information, and I realized that it wasn't just a me problem or just my community problem, but it's actually like a worldwide problem, especially amongst underserved and minority communities. So I decided to create something that's going to bridge that gap for children, and make it fun and relatable. So yeah, that's how I created Mahogany and Friends.
I love that. Thank you for sharing so in-depthly and just authentically, and vulnerably as well. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I love that you ended off with that share about the creativeness and the funness of it. So can you share with us some specific examples of your products that have been effective in teaching children about money and financial literacy?
Yeah, so the main ones that's been effective in teaching children about financial topics are my children books. So far, I have 2 books in the series, working on more, and working on creating like an animated series, because if I'm saying I want it accessible, I have to meet the kids where they're at. But the books educates children just on topics, like to become familiar, like, what is Wall Street? What is the New York Stock Exchange? What's a bear and bull market? Then the second book, that's Mahogany Goes to Wall Street. And then the second book, Malcolm's Master Plan to Gazillionaire, is showing the importance of having a long-term plan, planning out your goals, and really like utilizing investing, compound interest, and active and passive income to kind of build that together. So giving them ideas, but in a light way. It's not term heavy. It is an imaginative storybook format, but it's intended to spark conversations and for it to serve as a reference guide for them to come back to later on if they're now 15 and they're like, I remember that from somewhere.
I love that. I love that. I'm like, I have some self-help books that have just stuck with me for so long and that I constantly go back to and just check out. And every time, the beauty of when you keep something to reference back to, every time you go back to it, you discover something new about it.
Yes.
And it takes you down. And I love that you used rabbit hole, because a lot of times rabbit hole gets a bad rap, but it's not always a bad thing, because if that rabbit hole is actually empowered, if it's from an empowered space and place, it can really, like you said, allow, to me, that's the type of energy that allows something like your business to morph that quickly into something that's so, it's something I guess I consider spirit led. It's like when you follow they say once you get on that path, you never know what you'll be rewarded with and what'll come from it. But from your good intention and all of that, it's just like I can feel it and see it within your business and what you have going on.
And that's amazing you say that, because I always tell people, like, this is passion meets purpose. Like, okay, I could be doing this just for fun too. Like, it's fun to me. I know that it's impactful. It is intertied into my upbringing and my, experiences with money early on. So it's just great that you say that, because I felt like it was spiritual led. Like, okay, I'm researching, and then the idea popped. I've always been someone who journaled or, wrote little rhymes and raps or poems. And I was like, I could do this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it fun and make it for kids. Yeah.
I love that. So what I'm hearing right now is there's an element of also music and like poetry and all of that in it. It's not like, and this is what the book is looking like.
Yeah. So Malcolm's master plan for Gazillionaire. He's such a cool kid. He raps and rhymes throughout the book. We have a music video that we did in conjunction with the book, with a local kid artist in my community, that is just reiterating some of the things that are in the book to kind of make it stick. When you hear a song, things stick with you subconsciously. And it has been fun. Mahogany is very imaginative. She has her stuffed animal friends that she talks to. She's sassy. So it's really portraying, my community and my upbringing, that, the way I grew up. I'm a child from Newark, New Jersey. So that is very, very embedded in who I am.
Oh, I love that. It's I can't wait to go check out Mahogany and Friends, and I hope everybody out there goes and does it as soon as possible as well. It's kind of reminding me, I have a friend who had a baby that just made a year, and I believe in August or September, and we took a road trip to New York, and her and the baby rode along from Atlanta down here, and the baby loved this cartoon called Gracie's Corner. Are you familiar?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Yeah. And I just love that our children right now that are growing up have these different options of not just the regular cartoons that used to come on Saturday mornings. I really wish that while we did have the electric, like we had quite a few different shows that were educational. None of them were touching on financial literacy. None of them had the depth of Gracie's Corner at that early of an age. Like, you had to wait until you were a little bit bigger to understand. I mean, you had Sesame Street, which was all inclusive, but nothing that was directed literally just for us, by us, curated for us. So I just love that you guys, that our creatives are out there in the world using this to teach our babies with. Just kudos to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. In the current economic climate, financial literacy has become even more critical. I mean, we know we're looming on another recession. A lot of folks are trying to ignore it. I'm in the service industry at nighttime, and it's like it's being felt, and it's starting to take its little, it's happening in little small increments, but you can see it starting to come. So with that happening, how do you see Mahogany and Friends contributing to the overall financial education of children here in the United States?
So just introducing them to what's going on, introducing them to a budget, things that are going to be impactful when we're going into a recession. So this was similar to in 2008 when my mom lost everything. And I think it's the perfect time. I wouldn't say like, oh, I'm having money troubles, I can't educate my children on finances. This is opportune time. This is when you should be taking advantage of the market and taking advantage of showing them things that, sometimes what risk is, what is a budget, how we're going to plan for our future in the coming years. But I think Mahogany and Friends is going to contribute by just educating our youth, giving them some hope around that they can use the financial market in ways to build their wealth, even at a young age. So I go into a lot of schools and do like book readings and educational seminars, and you'll be surprised like how, you know, the kids' eyes light up like, oh, I can do that. Oh, I love playing Roblox. I can buy the Roblox stock. And then just educating them on different things outside of just counting money. It's important to know how to count money, but it's also important to know how to build a healthy relationship around it. So Mahogany and Friends also intertwines that throughout the book, that like Malcolm is all about being confident, consistent, and courageous in your goals, because dealing with money is a mindset. You can have all the tools laid out in front of you, but if mentally you're not there, you're not going to take the steps that are necessary to advance your financial health. So getting them in these mindsets is also what's key, and that's what these books are doing, to get them out of the scarcity mindset and to know that they can be abundant in their finances.
Wow, my heart just feels so full with the possibilities that could come from children being exposed to something. Because if it's anything that I know, is that our children do love mostly learning, unless, I mean, and I'm not trying to put anyone in a box, because of course you have some babies that are born as natural, oh man, the word is right on the tip of my tongue, like they just really like things very controlled. But for the most part, we love creativity. We love learning something through a song or just colors, things like that. So just the idea of learning all of this from the fun standpoint is really exciting, because that was a block for me growing up. Just the fact that school was so rigid and so taught by books. Now the fact that our books are even being removed from schools, to know that at home that this is what could be being taught. The books that are about hair, that are allowing young ladies to have confidence in whatever type of hair they have. It's just so inspirational, in that while we are looming on what may be dire times, we still have so much going for ourselves that is growing us as a community, that it just really fills my heart in the energy of Juneteenth, you know? While we may not be at the point where most of us can just go and start contributing I mean, we can actually start contributing to a Black Wall Street, but we would need the tiers of people to really commit to start setting it up so that we could start to, you know, fall into that. But until that happens, things like this is what allows that energy to really start to, you know, to start to grow and become that ball of energy that then becomes a huge, huge movement. So, yeah, this is a super exciting conversation.
And I think that we feel like it's dire times or crazy times because we see a lot of crazy things, you know, just at our fingertips at any moment of just injustices happening. But I think this is a pivotal moment where our eyes are open wide, and we now have a choice that is not dictated by, you know, old traditions, that, hey, I'm choosing to now educate my child on finances because I came across Mahogany and Friends on the Juneteenth live, and this is something that my child should be learning. So when we do come across it, we have to also, as a community, decide to make a choice and act on it immediately.
I love that, because you mentioned earlier about silver linings. And to me, this conversation and exactly what you just shared is one of the silver linings of COVID.
Yes.
COVID created a huge shift in our awareness and our paying attention to so many things that where we weren't necessarily showing up for ourselves, and not due to our own faults a lot of times, because most of it is systemic. But we were able to look and see the system and see what's not working. We're able to, like you said, it's just so much things that are happening out there, whether it's about financial literacy, whether it's support of artistry and pushing out entrepreneurs at a higher rate. if it's about pointing out that we've been doing all these service-based businesses and realizing that we have to have more sustainable businesses, the
Yeah.
amount of conversations, mental health, the amount of conversations that have been completely pivoted from that time frame, it's the thing that I am grateful for, because so many of us experienced so many things during that time frame that were chaotic and confusing and hurtful, and so much grief. And even if you didn't experience your own grief, it was grief for others, grief for the entire, states that you saw that it rampaged and really had higher rates of
Yeah.
loss stuff. It just really is, it's great to have a silver lining like this, to me.
Yes.
It's worth the sacrifice of our time, of our energy, and everything that went on during that time frame. What advice would you give to parents who are struggling to educate their children on financial literacy, especially during times like this of financial uncertainty, instead of looking at it like dire times, we're just in uncertain times where we don't know what's coming next. What would
I
you
think
offer?
I think seeking help, I think that's a big, taboo thing to say, hey, especially in our community, hey, I need help. Hey, can you come talk to my child? And reaching out in those ways, or hey, what are some, like, we're having this open dialect of about finances for children, having those types of conversation. You never know what that person who's sitting next to you knows, and that's the power of your network. So I think doing that, looking for resources like Mahogany and Friends that will introduce your kids to different financial topics. And then, like I said before, in any moments, there's a learning opportunity for your child. Whether you know it or not, you're educating your children on finances. So making it deliberate is what is key. Because when they see that mom is saying, I don't have no money for that. Nope, we broke. I don't have, they're going to have that broke mentality. They're going to have that broke mindset of like, when I have a little money, I got to act like I don't have it, or I really can't do much with it. They're watching you pay rent. They're watching you, go to the store and swipe your card. So being deliberate about like, hey, instead of saying we're broke, hey, we have a budget that we operate in. Sit down with mom and dad. You want these things. This is how you're going to have to work for it. And then this is how much you earn. And if you decide to keep it in mom and dad's bank, or mom's bank or dad's bank, whoever is raising the child, then hey, I'll throw up on $1 extra for you, or you can spend it. But once you spend it, your money is gone. So like teaching them those fundamentals early on, is key. You can definitely print out things for them to read. You guys can play games. Like Monopoly is a great game, but you have to sit and explain why they are deciding to buy up that block of property, and explaining the information behind it. But yeah.
Got you. I love that. What came up for me while you were having that share is language, and that language is everything. There is a group that I'm a part of women that heal together, called Be the Tree. It's actually where I met Athenia, and we talk about that. We talk about the things that were ingrained in our head that we operate from, that we have to reform. So I love that you gave that offer of like, instead of saying that you're broke, saying that we have a budget. Because I know when we were going over it for myself and what my relationship with money was, is I was taught that money was to spend, and it was actually said so much that it like became this thing that my money is always spent before I even spend it. It's already, before it even lands there, it's already spent, whether it be on bills, whether it be on something that I want. Most times in the last 10 years, more than not, it's on bills. But before I started to gain control over the consequence of it, and seeing the consequence of it when I was still shopping and overbuying and buying things that I didn't really even need, it definitely was that thing in the back of my head that was just like, oh, so what are you going to hoard it for? You can't take it with you. All of those things where it's like, no, we can't take it with us, but what we can do is pass it on to our babies behind us. so that they can then do just what you're out here teaching them to do with it. Create legacy for your family, create legacy for yourself, and actually reach and attain goals. Because when you are out of integrity with money, it's hard to do the things that you really want to do. It's hard to take trainings that you may really want to take. It's hard to to even think or see the idea of starting a business because you can't manage your funds over here. So that fear that you were talking about, it's definitely a real thing. And I'm speaking from my heart right now, not even just from what could be, but from the understanding and from doing the introspective work to see like what exactly is in my way, what's been in my way. And getting this far in the self-discovery point, I really see that those are the things, and I know it's not just me.
Yeah. It's not just you. It's so in my day job, I'm a financial advisor, and my books have really put me in this cool little spot where a lot of my clients, women, most importantly, women mostly come to me to have conversations around just financial trauma. Like, hey, Jay, I have these financial traumas and I'm trying to overcome them, and I need something set in place. I need goals put in, I want to get here. And so you're not alone. I experienced financial trauma. I believe everyone, in some shape or form have experienced some sort of financial trauma. And that's what really showed me the importance of like Mahogany and Friends being there for our youth and to push our future forward. So that, because there's nothing, if you think about it, finances, dealing with money is our longest relationship. Like, in order for us to be born, is money involved, and in death there's money involved. So it's longer than a relationship than we have with ourselves. So why aren't we learning how to navigate it and use it to better ourselves? No, it's not going to solve all issues, but it's going to make them a little easier.
Wow, I've never even thought about it like that. That is one of the longest relationships. And wow. Just wow. I was literally having a conversation with someone yesterday that shared that, their mate had to bury their mom, and that the funds weren't there for the lack of insurance and things like that. And it really is, even when you're ill prepared, it's still that relationship with money,
still
no matter what. Because
good, bad, or ugly.
I was going to say, because like I said, again, instead of taking it with us, we could be leaving it for our children. And that's another form of leaving something for our children, to, even if it's just the minimum, to actually. All right. Gary say it just gave me a little reset.
Okay.
But yeah, that's just so, that made me lose my train of thought, but that's okay. I know it'll come back. It's really important. It was really important, and it's supposed to be heard. It'll come back.
It'll come back.
So what are some of the biggest challenges you face in running a company that aims to educate children, and how do you get to address those challenges, or how do you address those challenges?
I think, trying to think what are some of the biggest challenges. I think some of the biggest challenges is just being seen, letting it be known that this resource is there, increasing in visibility, and then also getting people to understand the importance. Like some people do understand it, but it's like, oh, I'm not that, yeah, that's so nice, but nothing comes from it, when it should be something that's taken extremely serious. And I really feel like that has been the biggest challenge when I think about it. And it kind of feels like there's a couple of people that do what I'm doing in different ways, but I feel like it's really like just I'm setting out into new territories and paving a way. And sometimes that has its own challenges of like, oh, it hasn't been seen, or I don't think kids are ready for that, or that seems like such a niche market. So it's really just showing that it's not a niche market, and that it's for everyone, and it should be something that's talked about.
So many things come up for me with that. I'll start where the thing that came up for me about 2 questions ago was that I want to read this, and that sometimes what we actually need to understand is that because I've taken like not tons, but some financial training in other spaces and places. And what for me is always missing is that level of creativity. Like it'll be beautiful slides, and the slides will keep me captivated, but then the slides end up captivating me more than the actual words because of the lack of understanding of it, the lack of the literacy around it. So it tends to like overload me because I don't have that down the rabbit hole going to search and that excitement for that because of the just I guess that financial trauma that you're talking about, and it starts to overload me. But I was saying to myself, I said, you know what? I'm going to get Mahogany and Friends for myself before I even pass it to any of my friends for their children, because I want to read from this point. Because what we don't realize a lot of times is that in trauma, it's our little girls or that little boy that is stuck in that trauma in that first initial space of where the trauma first happened. While trauma could have kept happening and followed them along their lives in that same area, you're still stuck at that childlike point. Yep. So if I read Mahogany and Friends and get the excitement for the financial literacy from that same energy and from, because I believe energy is huge and I can see the authenticity and like the realness in what you're doing and why you're doing it. So I just feel like in that area of looking at it that way will have me understand it in a whole different way because it's my little girl that's still stuck financially. And that's huge. So I think people should look at it from that way. And then what came up for me is like you said earlier, we don't like to ask for help. We also don't like to admit that we don't know what we don't know a lot of times. And we're not even aware that we don't know what we don't know. So like sometimes looking at a book, if they already are stuck in their own financial stories or their own financial trauma, then they can't even really see the vision of understanding the importance of the book. But to me, it's the answer to the way that the Women's Collective that I'm a part of, how it came to the actual parents being educated was because it was a rites of passage program for young girls. And my coach realized that a lot of the things that were being corrected with the young ladies, it was coming from teachings from their mother or from the trauma from their mothers, and that we carry those traumas from generations before us, sometimes when nothing even happened to us. So that's how the Women's Collective actually got started. So I love that, the idea of that same formula, that you're actually a financial advisor in a daytime, because that's still what you're doing, really. You're educating the adults by day, and then by your passion project in Mahogany and Friends, you get to teach the children. So that's just so amazing.
Well, and I was my thought process with that was like, okay, it's harder sometimes to change the way an adult thinks, but when their children are speaking about things, or it can help them move into being financially, healthy and independent. When your child is talking about, Mom, I want to buy this stock, or I think I want to do compound interest, or whatever other topics that are going to come throughout the books. I do get calls from parents like, oh my gosh, my kid is excited about this book. I love it. I need to come talk to you.
I was going to say, so I just got this little download, and it may be something that may end up just being confirmation for you, or maybe even just a seed that may be planted. But I just heard Mahogany and Malcolm's Mommy, and a book that is actually for the parent and the child, that they get to learn together, and that actually starts to teach from the adult standpoint as well. And then that way it's the children, the parents learning with their children. And then that might even fire up the excitement even more. Because I know when I was raising my son, who's 23 now, when he was younger, anything that was interactive that allowed me to connect with him. Like I loved when they made Wii. When Wii came, they had the 2 remotes and we could actually play interactive video games together. That was one of my favorite moments. I remember I was devastated once he was of age to like go to GameStop on his own, and he went and sold it. And I was like, wait a minute, you didn't even, first of all, as a mother, I flipped out because number one, you didn't even have a conversation with me and you didn't buy that. But I also wanted either because I refused to buy any video game systems because he had everyone between his father and my and his grandfather. So it was just like, whoa. Whoa. Too much happening here. Too much. You're growing too fast. But I totally missed that experience of us being able to be interactive. So yes, you should truly consider that. I don't know. That was that was just
write that down when we get off of here.
Like, and that's a whole series because I know that you could present that from so many different ways and so many different stories. So good luck to the creative process on that.
Thank you.
So the financial industry has historically been male dominated. As a female, how have you navigated this industry, and what advice would you give to women of color who are interested in pursuing a career in finance or entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that's kind of also being in a white male dominated industry. That's also in sitting in diversity, equity, and inclusion meetings. And I'm the only representation of diversity. I was like getting frustrated and feeling like this is not it. So that's also what pushed me. Like, I really need to do something to help recreate this wheel. But, advice I would give to other Black women in this field, or how I've navigated it, is just really looking at it like my network. My network is my net worth. So getting out in the community, being visible. I'm in every room. I'm not afraid to be in every room. I'm not afraid to show up authentically me and introduce myself. I'm very intentional. So I think it's important when you're going into certain places, because as a financial advisor, we want to, as a Black woman advisor, we want to help our community, but it's to be sustainable, and this to be as a business, you have to be where the money is. So being intentional about that and finding rooms that align with who you are, but also aspires to who you want to be, and finding those people, like researching a little bit. You can stalk some people and say, oh, they this, and then go introduce yourself and shoot your shot. Like, it's nothing wrong with going up to someone and saying, hey, I'm Jay, I do this, I would love to talk to you more about blah, A, Y, and Z, or let's go grab coffee. I would love to get to know you a little more and build that relationship. So it's all about visibility. I heard one guy say this early on in my career, that Jay, in order to be successful as a financial advisor, you got to act like you're running for mayor, going out there and kissing babies, shaking hands with everyone. And so wherever your community is at, getting out there and being involved is key, because that's where referrals and things like that come from.
What comes up for me as well is that you build trust that way.
Yeah.
Especially in our communities, because we're, hearing about scammers and different things. People tend to, just as a community, a lot of times we tend to go to the default of defense.
Mm-hmm.
So in thoughts of handing our money over to somebody to manage it or to tell us what to do with it, not only does it take us first admitting that we need that help, or being aware that we need the help, then admitting that we need the help, then actually asking the help that's given to you. So I also hear that in being out there and touching folks and being with the folks, that's as well, that you get to also build trust with people that'll then become your clients.
Yes, it's all about trust.
Can you share with us?
Oh, okay.
What would you say? I think we have it a little lag. I'll take a second so that way we can let the time catch up. I think something's happening on our time. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is we have a moment. I'm just going to do a little refresh on my browser. If you want to do the same, you're welcome to. Community, just bear with us and we'll be right with you. All right. All right. Hopefully that's a little better. All right. So we were talking about building trust. And I think we were complete in that area. Or actually you were talking, right? When we
No,
got
yeah,
into the
I said building trust is extremely important, and that can be built in different ways. For me, I feel like I had a leg in with building trust with my children books and people seeing me out in the community in that way. But other ways that you can build that within our community and other communities is, joining some nonprofits that you're really passionate about and helping the community out, doing some workshops. Sometimes some things are gonna be pro bono, and be authentically you and real. People can pick up on that.
love that. So share with us some of your future plans and projects or initiatives that you have in store for Mahogany and Friends.
So we
Besides,
really
besides Mahogany's mommy.
we definitely want more. There's definitely going to be more books in the series. We already sell like our doll baby, our mahogany doll, our motivating merch, as well as some other things. But we want to have some different activity sheets. We want Mahogany and Friends to be incorporated in some curriculums. So we are right now a vendor for the Atlantic Public School Systems. We're trying to do the same for New York. We're one in Virginia. So having our resources available and putting our books in all children's hands, even those in underserved communities that parents can't afford them. So I created a nonprofit arm to my business where people can donate so that we can send books to community centers and schools in underserved communities. And then also just I really want an animated series. I feel like children, they read books and they definitely do in school, but it's always not something that's pushed at home. And I've been guilty of it with my niece saying, okay, you can watch this show, and it'll be nice to say you can watch this financial education show, and it's still fun, and it feels like Karma's World, but she's learning something. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. I have a great person, a reference for you when you're looking for the voices for your animated series. I totally see that for you. It's so funny because I was like, oh, I'm sure she probably has some videos already that go with the books in my head. Yeah. So I'm like, I see you, sis. I see exactly where you're going.
Thank you.
And I feel like the possibilities are endless just because, again, of the passion meeting the purpose, that you're only really just in the very beginnings of, even though it morphed really quickly, I feel like you're still at the very beginning of stages of where this is going to go for you and for our community.
Yes.
It's a topic, like, I think the financial literacy and the mental health piece, those are the two most important to me right now amongst our community, the two things that are the most empowering from a youth standpoint.
Yes.
If you learn mindfulness, if you learn the tools, yoga, meditation, if you learn the things that help you manage anxiety around whatever it is that you have to deal with, then learning to deal with money, and again, from that fun standpoint, it makes it a lot funner than these things that we know that we're told, curriculums that we're told that we have to learn. The ones that are controlled and, again, part of the system, not really the authentic things that we really need to be learning, the things that actually will contribute to the value of just our own self-confidence and self-worth within our own lives and then within our own communities.
Absolutely.
I love that. So long term, okay, so you shared some of your initiatives and what you have going on. What would you, if you were looking at 10 years ahead, what do you see for Mahogany and Friends? Where do you see Mahogany and Friends 10 years from now?
Being a household name. So that, everyone knows about Mahogany and Friends. We are that resource for kids that are early on wanting to learn. They're wanting to expose their kids to financial literacy. We are the brand that really made finances fun. And just like how you watch shows about STEM or medical things, like okay, there's Doc McStuffins. That's fun, but it's actually teaching the kids a lot of like important concepts, and that's what I want my industry to be fun. I want my industry to be diverse, because when the financial industry is diverse, we're able to help different people from diverse backgrounds financially succeed, and I think that that is the main key to kind of like joining everyone. I know that sounds all mushy, but that's kind of how I look at it. And so yeah, just being a household brand. When I tell people, I'm like, we're the Black Disney of finances, like, and it may be more. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. I do believe in understanding your psychological mind, so understanding why you avoid things, the power behind avoidance and how to overcome that, and just different topics that I've learned over the years through researching on my own or talking to different people. And I just want that to not be so hard for kids to have access to.
Whew. I love that. I'm like, that is so exciting just to hear and to imagine and to just really imagine. Because I remember when I had like just the growth of Doc McStuffins and the growth of the different areas. It's like to see Mahogany and Friends, to see Gracie's Corner, and things like what you guys are up to, growing to that size is just it's gonna happen. It's a dream.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about dreams is that they definitely come true. We see it all the time. It definitely
Yes.
happens. And having that faith and that commitment and the consistency is key. So
Yeah.
this has been an amazing conversation. I'm like, I could sit here and pick your brain all day about the topic. And not only that, it also, I spoke earlier before we came on about how I love to present everything and approach it from a holistic standpoint. And that's what I hear in your shares. Like, it's not
Mhm.
like you're just talking about money, you're just talking about entrepreneurship. It's also experiences that you're sharing in there to help. And if it's anything that I know, like as a child, I loved reading. I still love to read. And something that always grabbed me was when I can relate and
Mhm.
things being relatable. And even if it wasn't my story, just being able to relate to it in any way, it always grabbed my attention more than something that I did not relate to.
Yeah.
Um, and then before, as we start to wind down, I'll have some questions for you before we exit. But something that came up for me in your last share, you tapped onto diversity. So would you say, and have you noticed, do people of other cultures purchase your books as well, or do you find just the community paying attention to your books, or is it being used as a diverse tool? Because you can't force anybody to buy anything, you can't make
Mhm.
anyone buy anything, but I do believe that when things are of purpose and it's intentional, that the Most High takes care of that and will
Yes.
expose it and get it to different people. So have you found it landing in spaces and places that you might not have expected it to?
So when I did the book series, when I had the idea to start it, it was just like, I'm black. I gotta make a black character. I mean, I grew up in that type of household. Like, we had black Santa Clauses. I
Mhm.
had a Kenya doll. Like, we went to certain type of African schools growing up in New Jersey. So that's just embedded in me. So I'm like, that's a no brainer. But what is surprising is that you would think that the black community would be the one buying the book so much and so fast. But that's true in certain arenas, in certain markets that I present the book. But a lot of white people buy my books, and a lot of people from other diverse backgrounds, because and the reason, because I've questioned why, and the reason I think that happens is because they are at a standpoint in their life where they're kind of financially stable, and they see the importance, like, yeah, I wish I knew this early, and they see that importance, they have that ease of mind to say, let me do something better for my kid. Whereas sometimes in our Black community, we're trying to survive. So these things are not top of mind. And that's why it was really important for me to do that nonprofit, because it is meant for my community. It is going to be inclusive and include other cultures and different things that I relate to, or if I've experienced through travel. But yeah, it is surprising. I get all different kind of people that buy the book, and they love it.
I got that. I love that. I'm also not surprised. It's kind of the reason why when you were like, oh, I'm not gonna apologize. Like, I am like being like wanting to do. I heard like what I heard is Kumbaya. Like the song just actually played in my brain, and I'm like, yeah, because at the end of the day, while we have had atrocities that have happened between us, I want us to grow past that, and it's pertinent that we grow past the experiences, not ignore them, not stuff it down, not act like it didn't happen. But in order to get to a place where we are not so culturally divided, so racially divided, we have to release some things and have moments like that, and getting to see that of certain generations, that they're not shunning away using a tool because of the color of the babies. I love when I see videos on Instagram of little white girls that want brown babies. Like, it's like we create these stories and we put each other in boxes that really don't serve us as a country. Forget about as communities, but as a whole entire country, that it's so much division because of that, because we make things sometimes more than they are. We make things mean what they don't mean. And while yes, there are some really ugly people and that happens out there in this world surrounding racial injustice and racism in general, there are still a lot of good people that don't mind using those books as a tool. And I'm so glad that
and I am part of a group here in town where there's a lot of older white people, and someone spoke up and was like, let them know that it's not just for Black people. And I'm like, well, that's kind of irrelevant to say, because when I'm reading Llama Llama Red Pajama, I'm not a llama, and your kid is not either. When we grew up reading Magic School Bus, we weren't white kids in Mrs. Frizzle's class, like, so it's just the character, and it's important from any background, even Black, that we expose our children to different cultures so that they can know how to effectively interact, and so that they don't blur the line where it can come off as you're being racist or inconsiderate because you don't understand.
Yes. So we're going to ask our final 4 questions for this morning. Okay. Your contact information is scrolling on the bottom, so please, guys, go follow Janasha. As you heard, this conversation is super important, and I know that you guys can all use this tool in some form or fashion, whether you have children or not. Our communities are large, and they don't always include just our babies. So, what are some of the things that you would like the community to take away from today's session?
That is super important to be educating your children early on financial topics, and using Mahogany and Friends as a tool to make it fun and exciting for them. Finances is not complex. It's usually our own trauma that we make it complex or think it's complex because we don't understand it. But when you're exposed to it early, you definitely have, in a sense, a brighter future ahead when it comes to being financially sound.
Got that. So, we're in the 50th anniversary of hip hop, and we've been asking this question since the summertime. Who is your favorite hip hop artist and why?
I have so many for different reasons. So I love Jay-Z and Nas because I feel like they educate you through their rap. They rap as a story, like you're on a journey. And then I love a record when you gotta like, oh, let me replay that back, let me hear what they're saying. It's true, they're true lyricists. And I like Nicki Minaj, and I love 50 Cent. Just it's fun to dance with. I'm rapping it. So yeah, those are the people.
I love it. All right. And what is Kwanzaa for you?
So Kwanzaa, I feel like, is a holiday for Black Americans, African Americans, whatever you identify as, that, really celebrates our culture, our community, our history, and just who we are. So that's what I look at Kwanzaa as.
I love that. And last and final question, what does Juneteenth mean to you?
Independence, and like true independence, not 4th of July independence, but a celebration of, being emancipated as Black Americans and how far we've come in such little time. Like, yeah, it feels like we're light years behind, but we started off really behind, and I don't think a lot of cultures could have made the strides that we have made today for me to be sitting on here talking about financial literacy. So kudos to my Black community.
That part. Well, thank you, Janasha. This has been an amazing conversation. I hope that this again goes viral. So folks out there, please like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you in the background.
All right.
See you backstage. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us this week. This conversation could not have been more important, and as Janasha shared, that it's a great time, a divine time to be having this conversation around financial literacy, just with the things that are going on in today's society. So thank you for being here with us today. I look forward to seeing you next week. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and see you guys next week.
Greetings, and good afternoon, Juneteenth family. Welcome to another weekly edition of our Luncheon Line.
E is exhaling, having an opportunity to breathe, to rest, to refill yourself and rejuvenate yourself, because no one can pour from an empty cup.
As you evolve and become more of yourself, you begin to attract the people that are there for you.
Amen.
So everything you need is in this space.
You have to learn from your mistakes. Once you make a mistake, sit down, recoup, and then start over. And once you do that, you say, I got that.
See, Juneteenth means to me, I would definitely say empowerment and education.
When I experienced it, like just coming together and, being a part of something bigger than myself,
And new starting a new chapter, opportunity, new beginnings, all of that.